Browns training camp is zipping along. They're back from the Greenbrier in Berea. What's happening? What are the injuries? Those are mounting up. How's Deshaun Watson look? And trade rumors are hot, but also our Week 8 preview in our Browns 2024 opponent series is with the LA Chargers. We'll be talking about that and a whole lot more on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, the sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Chubb-a-lubba hub.
It's gonna be sick.
All right, everybody, showtime. It is go time for the Cleveland Browns. Like those hot dog days of summer, right? The Greenbrier was all nice, and now we're starting to hear stuff out of camp. There's still, and I'm getting a little concerned about this, we still don't have any healthy tackles on the offensive line. Kind of need those because James Hudson filling in at left tackle, he wasn't great on the right side. I'm not too confident on the left. Jed Wills working his way back. DeJuan Jones the same. No one's seen Jack Conklin outside anywhere. So he's probably not going to start the season, I wouldn't think. I'm hearing it'll be okay, but I'm starting to get a little nervous. Like we're not in double digit yet in August, but it's coming. Make sure you're clicking subscribe on the show. Notifications on. Comment. You nervous about the Browns offensive line situation? How about all the other injuries? The Darius Smith scary moment collided with Jerome Ford. Knee contusion, apparently just really sore, no structural damage. So that should be okay. How you feeling about that? We need Zadarius nice and healthy and ready to go. Make sure you're following us on all socials, SickPod Browns and at AndyMCD1 on Twitter, X, Instagram, and TikTok, at AndyMC Sports. My buddy, Logan Gordon from Sportsnet 960 in Calgary is going to be joining us to talk Chargers in a few minutes, to talk some LA Chargers. And what does it mean to Jim Harbaugh coming? What does it mean for Justin Herbert and everything in between? Also want to address the Brandon Aiyuk trade rumors coming up. I'll talk about that with Logan in a second. But other Browns news coming out of the Greenbrier, Deshaun Watson threw every day except for the last one. No load management. Gets to Berea. First couple of days look good. They had to move inside because of weather. But apparently the last couple of days, not so good for the offense. Maybe that's just the time of the year and the defense is catching up a bit. Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson apparently on Wednesday just had it off. Like they were missing each other. And maybe that's Amari Cooper. Is he being distracted by all the Brandon Aiyuk trade rumors? I don't know. But that's a little concerning, but it's camp. The main thing I want to see is Deshaun Watson healthy, the ball going with power, and everybody just staying upright. Cedric Tillman. Guys, what have I told you? I show you the two cards I got behind me for rookie cards for Cedric Tillman. I doubled down on him because I think this guy is going to be a stud this year. Maybe not first thing out of the gate, and in fantasy football as well. Cedric Tillman, he's catching balls. He is looking crisp. He's looking good. We got news. Jameis Winston is going to be the starting quarterback for the Browns, playing the Green Bay Packers in their first preseason game. We kind of expected that. So Jerry Jeudy, we mentioned last week. Were we nervous about Jerry Jeudy not getting on the field? He's on the field. Said he was ready to go. They're being precautionary. Okay. Him and Deshaun had a nice little connection. They showed on the team video. So I think we're looking okay there. But there are a couple of things we need to get to. I'm going to bring on Logan Gordon from Sportsnet 960 in Calgary to talk about this and his LA Chargers. Logan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, Andy. How are you?
Good. Great. We're switching roles. Usually I'm on your show every week. Now you're on mine. There you go.
Here, I've watched so many times, and now it's nice to finally be on here with you.
Absolutely, buddy. Great to have you. And before we get to your Chargers, this Brandon Aiyuk situation, I think, is interesting. Let me lay out the landscape a little bit and get your thoughts on it from real life and fantasy. Because if we're looking at it real life wise, okay, we know wide receivers are divas and whatever, but this is a bit concerning because I don't think Brandon Aiyuk is about winning at all. Because the San Francisco 49ers, it's not like, maybe with your Chargers, Harbaugh, or with the Browns, they could be Super Bowl contenders. You're on a Super Bowl contender. The rumor is they offered you $26 million. You're holding out for 30. You turned down the Patriots because of money and you didn't like the situation. Don't blame you there. Browns are in and out, Steelers in and out. I'm just not liking the mojo here. Like, Logan, this is screaming of like, then next year he's going to ask for 35. This guy's not about winning.
No, he's not. The situation in San Francisco couldn't be better given the Shanahan's there. Purdy's turned out to be better than anybody thought he would be. So the quarterback situation works out pretty well. You already know you can have success in that offense as an individual and as a team. So what else are you looking for if you're Brandon Aiyuk? Team's willing to give you the money. You say you don't want to go to the Patriots because they're not winners, but they're willing to give you the money. So I can't figure out what exactly this guy wants out of it. If you want to get paid, go get paid from a team that wants you. If you want to win, you're already in that situation, aren't you?
Right. And you're still getting paid. You're still getting 26 mil.
Yeah.
Like, I know that to the common folk like us, like, holy cow, give us 1 mil. We're happy.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of it is status, right? He wants to be the high. But to me, especially in fantasy football, but let's face it, I think you look at a Justin Jefferson, a Tyreek Hill, a Jamar Chase as that elite level. Brandon Aiyuk isn't an elite level to me. I think he's very good. I think he's a very good. I think he'd be a number one, but I don't feel he's at that level. To me, Logan, I think we look at a Brandon Aiyuk with how deep these wide receiver classes are now. And you look, it's like, well, as long as you hit, and you have to hit, easier said than done. Mm-hmm. But as long as you hit on these guys, you can get a guy on his rookie contract who's probably just as good, potentially better in the first round than Brandon Aiyuk. Why am I spending all that money?
Yeah, Brandon Aiyuk strikes me as a guy that could be a very strong number two. I still even look at San Francisco and say, do I like Deebo Samuel more than Brandon Aiyuk with what he can do out of the backfield? Probably. So I don't know how many teams, if you have a legitimate number one, are placing Brandon Aiyuk over that. And I'm sure status is a big thing for him. You might not get that in a place that has CMC and Deebo already there. George Kittle, still one of the best tight ends in the NFL. But I don't know how many situations he's walking into unless the wide receiver room looks empty like it does in New England, where he's going to have that status where he is heads and tails above everybody else. So, yeah, it's a tricky one for Brandon Aiyuk, who, let's be honest, I don't even know if he would ever reach the potential of a Tyreek or Justin Jefferson, guys that you mentioned. Like, is he ever going to be that guy? I don't know. Still a good receiver.
Sure. Yeah, he's still very good, but yeah, not that's elite money.
Yeah,
like you're not better than those guys, bro. Sorry, like
no,
like you're just not. And that comes to some fantasy implications because, which is why we always say wait as long as you can to have your draft. Because if he does get traded from San Francisco, well, all of a sudden Deebo Samuel, right? Everybody there gets bumped up. Whatever team he goes to, that's going to cause a bit of a shuffle. So something to watch. It's a moving target. It could be, news could break on that at any moment. So we'll wait and see. But let's talk about your LA Chargers, sir. And I have to think, we'll get to the depth chart, but despite the, it looks a little lean. How optimistic are you with getting a coach the caliber of a Jim Harbaugh in finally? Because bad coaching was the theme the last few years.
Yeah, it's incredibly encouraging in LA, and it only took 3 rookie head coaches for the Spanos family to finally figure out that maybe spending some money is going to be the best way to actually build what you want to build in LA. Mike McCoy was a failure. Anthony Lynn was a failure. Brandon Staley was maybe the biggest failure of all. And he thought he was the best of them all, and it never worked. And this marriage made sense from a lot of reasons for Harbaugh being a former Charger, knowing what that organization's all about and how they need to build this. It's a new optimism. This is exactly the guy that you need to come in and build what the Spanos family wants. And that's a lasting legacy that's going to be around for more than 3 to 5 years and actually command that respect from players and the rest of the organization, have everything come together, because clearly the last 3 guys that you under Tom Telesco were going to bring in just didn't have that kind of cachet to them.
No, it felt very Browns-esque to me, Logan, where you were just, let's get the new guy in. Let's get first-year guy. And obviously everybody was a first-year guy at some point. So It works, but you just don't get that mix. So now they went and they got Jim Harbaugh, who, I couldn't stand him at Michigan. I think he's a whiner, and the guy's good. The guy won in San Fran. He eventually turned it around with a bit of cheating. Well, that's okay with Michigan. And now you bring in, and at least then he's entering the building with cachet.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, I am most excited for Justin Herbert. Hopefully that foot's okay. But Justin Herbert, under the tutelage of Jim Harbaugh, that has all the makings, man, to take him to that level where we think he can get to.
It does. And you got to think about not only all the new head coaches that Herbert's had, it's also involved a lot of changes with the offensive coordinator year in, year out. And he's been able to have the kind of success early on in his career that you probably wouldn't associate with guys who have had that kind of turnover. He's been able to figure out the offenses, been able to manage the injuries that always seem to haunt this team, and still put up some pretty respectable numbers. And Jim, being a former quarterback, seeing what he's done with a guy like J.J. McCarthy at Michigan, it gives you that faith, if you're Justin, that this guy's giving you the right direction going forward, and he's going to give you the tools and make sure that everyone around you that maybe hasn't picked up the slack the last couple of years is going to match what you've been able to bring since being drafted by this team.
Right. In conversation with Logan Gordon from Sportsnet 960 in Calgary, talking Browns Chargers Week 8 opponent in our Cleveland Browns 2024 opponent series. Let's look at the draft picks for the Chargers. You went Joe Alt, O-line, nice and steady. You need to protect your quarterback. So I like the mindset. You got to protect your asset in Justin Herbert. So Joe Alt there. Ladd McConkey, really interesting pick. And I think, Logan, where you look at the depth chart, he has a chance. If he can come in and slide in, he could be a day one impact guy with just the opportunity presented to him.
Absolutely. This guy's been cerebral at training camp. Everybody's talked so far about the instant connection. He's a tremendous route runner. He's got that ability, Andy, that, some of those undersized guys, we'll call them, to find that space in the slot or in the zone. That's really important in the NFL, to find those soft spots on defenses. That's everything that Ladd McConkey is. And it's everything that, Herbert's had at different points in his career with some of these guys, but this has been an instant connection. And you're right, given the fact that Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are out the door in LA and off to different pastures themselves, this is a big opportunity. I wouldn't be surprised if, when it's all said and done, McConkey is very similar to another guy in LA in the other building. That's with the LA Rams, and gives you a kind of a Cooper Kupp kind of feeling in LA. Maybe Cooper Kupp light for Justin Herbert to have that kind of option in that outlet.
Well, they're going to need it, because let's look at this depth chart, brother. Let's look at this, because Josh Palmer from Canada, we wish him the best, but let's be honest. On most teams, he probably at best is a WR3.
Yeah.
Right? He was last year on this team. He's going to get a chance. DJ Chark, nice. If we're looking overall, nice sort of back-end WR2 guy. Solid, but a veteran. And then there's Ladd McConkey. After that, Quentin Johnson, up and down, maybe. Then I'm looking at the rest, man, and it looks pretty bleak at wide receiver. Is there any name Browns fans should be scared of when it comes to those wide receivers? Any depth guys you like behind those names, or is it like cross your fingers those guys are going?
I mean, Ladd's the guy. Chark has impressed in camp early on. They needed that deep threat. I mean, Darius Davis is an interesting one too. He's been a kick return guy, but he's a stretch the field type of guy that Justin Herbert, with that cannon of an arm, if they're into some wide receiver 4 packages where they're spreading guys out, Darius Davis is a guy to watch in that sense. Who knows what Quentin Johnson is at this point? The drops are still a massive concern. You're right. Josh Palmer, a solid all-around receiver. It's great that he's a Canadian for watching the Canadian content grow in the NFL, but I think it's been pretty common that he's not going to be a true number 1 in this league, and that's okay. So, it's McConkey. It's going to be hoping that Jim Harbaugh and the minds that be in the offense can unlock that round 1 potential from Quentin Johnson, and hopefully that offensive line gives him as much time as possible to find those guys and get them open.
Well, that's what they're going to need. I'm just looking up McConkey here, just in fantasy drafts where he's going. Looks like he is right now, in general, tier 6, 44th wide receiver off the board, behind guys like Cortland Sutton. He's ahead of Rome Odunze, which is interesting. Ahead of Jackson Smith and Jigba. I agree with that. Behind like an Xavier Worthy, I would take Ladd McConkey all day. Xavier Worthy is going to be a gadget guy.
Yeah.
Did you see the videos where he was just being ping-ponged at practice?
I did.
Holy cow.
That was not good. That wasn't a good look.
I'm like, guy, behind DeAndre Hopkins. He'll be a number one. Christian Watson, okay. Hollywood Brown in Kansas City, I would take him over him now. Like this is, yeah, like there is some room for Ladd McConkey to be a draft steal if you can get him that late with the target share. I think he just has to command because of the few options around him. Like he just has to.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where volume's going to be big. PPR, as far as McConkey goes, is that trust has been building with Herbert from day one, and it's just something that guys at training camp can't help but look away at. Now, health is a big thing. You mentioned the foot thing with Herbert. McConkey's kind of dealing with something the last couple of days as well, and that was a concern. It's probably why he was a second-round pick instead of a first-round pick at the draft. But, yeah, everything being equal, he seems like the guy that's poised to have the biggest day-one impact that maybe people didn't expect in this LA offense.
Yeah, we're going to have to track the health of both those guys. Because, oh, boy, Herbert better – Logan, it's Easton Stick.
Yeah.
Then Max Duggan, Casey Boat. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's now, if you believe in the XFL, the UFL, Luis Perez was signed yesterday. Easton Stick had a monumentally bad day at practice earlier this week, and he's
like a bad NFL quarterback.
He is. It's not good. And when you've got limited options that aren't, let's be honest, you don't have a Justin Jefferson that's going to be able to adjust to a bad ball every time you throw one up.
Yeah.
It's just not. You don't have those guys that can save you from those bad throws right now. So Easton Stick's on the bubble for this team right now after drafting Max Duggan as a project and now bringing in Luis Perez. A lot of people initially thought maybe that was bad news for Herbert and his week one availability. I don't see it like that. I see it as a wake-up call to Easton Stick that, hey, you've been in this league, you've been around Justin Herbert for more than enough time. You've got to prove you're a solid backup here, because if Herbert goes down, this team already, as we've gone through the depth chart, just doesn't have the ability to sustain that kind of loss.
No, not at all. And you might as, if he's no good, and you have to see what Duggan does, they're built kind of the same, 6'1"-ish. Interesting that they don't have like a bigger mobile, bigger arm backup guy. Like these are kind of dink and dunkers,
Yeah,
I don't get it.
No, it's a weird spot. It's one they're going to have to address. They've had some veteran backups before. I mean, you remember Tyrod Taylor was a guy that was here at one point.
Needle to the chest. Oh,
yeah, Tyrod. He was the guy that got his lung punctured by a doctor in the Chargers that gave Justin Herbert his start. So who knows if that worked out well. But, Chase Daniel's been a guy that's been around that was before he retired a backup. And, it just doesn't look like Easton Stick's going to be that guy.
No. Let's talk about your running backs here.
Sure.
What are we doing? We got Gus Edwards, goal line. Like Gus Edwards is a nice goal line back. Not number one on the depth chart. J.K. Dobbins has never been able to stay healthy, ever. And Isaiah Spiller, I'll be honest, I thought he was out of the league in there. I don't know Kamani Vidal. Is this just a true committee? Is running not going to be a focus? Is it going to be a lot of like really pass heavy under Harbaugh? Like what are we thinking here?
It is expected to be run heavy, which might surprise you given the fact they don't have a true number one back. Going back to the offseason with Williams and Keenan Allen leaving, the biggest thing when Jim Harbaugh came in and spoke to Austin Eckler, former fantasy, dynamo in this NFL for a long time, was, hey, we're going to run the ball with our big offensive line, and we're going to give Justin Herbert every chance to make something happen off of play action. Can we give you the ball 150, 200 times a year? And Eckler just said that really wasn't his game at this point in his career, and that's why he's with the Washington Commanders. Wow. So Harbaugh goes with, some guys that his brother's known well in Baltimore with Edwards and Dobbins. And Dobbins for sure has the biggest opportunity in this offense, given, again, not that LA and health go hand in hand, but if he's the guy, you're right. I think that'll be a former Ravens combo in the backfield. They like Kimani Vidal quite a bit as a guy that is definitely likely to overtake Spiller. He's just never – he was an interesting project. Tom Telesco, those middle-round draft picks were always a nightmare for him. Right. It looks like Isaiah Spiller is going to be another one of those guys that showed some potential but never really did it when it came to being on the field. So, yeah, Kimani Vidal probably going to be the third back and might be asked to be a bigger role in this offense if or when Dobbin gets hurt.
You know what? Yeah, he was drafted 2020. I'm looking. He missed all 2021. He's only played 24 career games. Maybe if we put our fantasy hats on here, late round stash, maybe this Kimani Vidal. Because, like we said, I would be shocked if Edwards can handle the full. He just hasn't. We haven't seen it. And Dobbin's staying healthy. Boy, a little late round, sneak and stash. Maybe Kimani Vidal, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it if that's an option that you're looking at. Running backs always seem to, at least every league I'm in, seem to get stashed away very early on, and you're kind of hoping for something. This might be the perfect project because despite Justin Herbert being there, Jim Harbaugh's talked about that offense and the fact that they want to run the ball. They want to be a team that can, give some better situations, some 2nd and 5s, 3rds and shorts, those kind of things, and not ask Herbert to do absolutely everything when he does pass the ball. So they brought in Bradley Bozeman as another guy that Harbaugh knows. He's going to play center. They've got some big guards. Alton Slater at the tackle position should be able to move some bodies for the run game. So, yeah, you think pass happy with Herbert, no doubt. But Jim Harbaugh has talked about a hard-nosed offense that involves running pretty consistently.
And I wonder what that means for the tight ends here. Because on paper, you look Will Dissly, possession guy, had some blips in Seattle. Hayden Hurst, I feel like a guy who never has reached his full potential, but flashed. I wonder if you go and run heavy. I'm thinking to the Browns offense in the past where you go with those 2 tight end sets, and there can be some playmaking opportunities there.
Yeah, for sure. The Chargers have had an issue the last couple of years, really since Hunter Henry left to go to New England, of finding a guy that could do both. They had very few guys that could block competently and catch the football. It was one or it was the other. Gerald Everett is the probably the most recent name people would understand at that position. He was a good pass catching tight end, but he couldn't block. You couldn't put him in there for the run. So you put in a guy like Donald Parham, who's huge. He's a monster. He's like 6'5", 6'6", and was a great blocker, but really not a pass option. So you kind of knew what was happening when either of those guys were in. So Dissly and Hurst kind of strike me as the balance in between that for Jim Harbaugh. Guys that, have been around in the NFL, understand that you can't get by just being one of those guys. You have to be able to do both. You want to see the field consistently. So, goal line packages, options for Herbert to look for on shorter routes. Both of those guys strike me as looking for that opportunity to be a tight end 1.
Yeah, some 12 personnel could be, especially if you need to be a little cautious with how those wide receivers work. That'll be interesting. General look at the defense here. We know we got the big boy, right? You got where's Bosa? There he is. Yep. Is he banged up again?
Yes.
God, he's always banged up. Those Bosa, you know what? Bosa's and the other brother crew, the big Watts. Watts. I think they train so hard and go so hard they hurt themselves too much. They go like all out. The effort's never a question, but they get hurt a lot. Is he going to be ready for the season, do you think?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's too serious right now. I'm probably not going to see him in preseason, but an opportunity to be out there week 1 with Khalil Mack on the other side. Right,
and you got Khalil Mack. So how are you feeling about the defense overall?
You know what? There's pieces here. Brandon Staley, the former head coach, was supposed to be the offensive genius that made it work, or the defensive genius, that made it work. It kind of feels like Aaron Donald made him look really good for his time with the Rams as their defensive coordinator. Yeah, he could never unlock this team. He tried he called it a star position with Derwin James that put him in all these different packages, and he was almost acting as a secondary linebacker. It was really strange, and it just never seemed to work. Harbaugh brings Jesse Minter over from Michigan with him to run this defense. There's potential. There are star players on this defense. Khalil Mack continues to be ageless. He had a great season last year. You could ever get him and Bosa on the field at the same time for a consistent, period. That should be a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. That should be a really good combo. They brought in Fulton, a former Tennessee Titan, to give some cornerback depth behind Asante Samuel. And Jim Harbaugh has raved as much as Derwin James and the ability that he has to be all over the field. So potential, you got to keep these guys on the field together. That might be the strong suit for this Chargers team this year, is what they can do defensively.
And I like Bud Dupree as a rotation guy, not as a starter, but rotation. I think that could be an overlooked asset for this Chargers team if you're not putting too much on, but to come in fresh. Bud Dupree could be a real nice slide in there as well.
Yeah, nice to give those guys a break sometimes, right? You've got
fresh
going all the time. Come in on a third down and some fresh legs to go after the quarterback. It's a sneaky good NFL vet there.
No, it's not bad. Okay, so what's your gut telling you for this Charger season? You feeling playoffs, 500, under 500? What are you thinking?
You know what? It's interesting. Second in the AFC West seems achievable. We know the Chiefs are going to dominate. That's just the window they're in. But I don't know what the Raiders are exactly, what their quarterback situation. I don't believe in Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos right now.
No. Bo Nix looks like he's 40. He looks as old as me. He looks like he's 40 plus years old.
Yeah,
look, get some Botox, bro.
So second in the division is open. That might be a 500 team though, and I think that's an achievable goal for this team if Justin Herbert can stay healthy and that foot issue isn't something that bothers him all year long. I think the playoffs is probably a stretch given the depth of talent of teams in the AFC. You know that in the Browns division. Even the AFC East has a couple of teams that look like they're going to be playoff contenders. So I think they're in tough to make the playoffs, but to be an everyday contender and a team that you can't overlook to have a big loss here and there is going to be a step forward from this Chargers team.
Yeah, and I think that Harbaugh factor is going to be, if they can get off to a nice little start, you get that culture changing, and then it's 2025 is when you really sort of make that next step. So week 8, Browns, Chargers coming into Cleveland. Game before you guys play the Saints. They're not scaring anybody. What's your feel for that game? Way too early prediction. Browns win, Chargers win. What are you saying?
It's funny because the Browns are another team, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this a lot, that I'm trying to get a feel for what's happening there. The Deshaun factor is just so wild to me. I just don't like.
It's the main factor. It's the X factor.
Yeah, if he looks anything like he did with Houston, Jerry Jeudy could be a sneaky good pickup. Amari Cooper is another guy that we know well in the AFC West. You know what? The Chargers and Browns have played some sneaky good games the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
You know what? It might not be on everybody's NFL calendar, but it's one to watch for sure. I got to stick with my guys, though. I think if Herbert's healthy, I think he has an advantage over that secondary. I'll say, if you want me to give you a score, I'll say 30-21 Chargers.
Ooh, well, yeah. What was it, a couple years ago with Baker and Herbert going toe-to-toe, right?
They went
40-something game.
Yeah.
That was wild. It was
crazy.
Absolutely wild. And the Browns lost that one. I was at a Chargers game but in Cleveland. Not that one. It was like the 2 year, and the Browns lost as well. So we're due, damn it. I'm saying Browns take it. You're coming off the Ravens game. It's at home. 1 o'clock. Start on November 3rd. Let's see what happens. I think the Browns take it. I think it'll be high scoring too. I'll say 32-28 Cleveland.
I like it.
We'll see what happens. Buddy, tell people where, because you're a Chargers fan, but you talk all sports, all across the board on Sportsnet 960. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, man, Sportsnet 960. You can check us out on the website, of course, wherever you get your podcast. Sportsnet Today 960 is the show I run. You can find me on Twitter. You can help me go through my Chargers feelings on Sundays and 960 Logan. And we're always checking out the NFL, and be glad to have you back on the show once we get back to it to talk some fantasy, man.
Definitely. Cannot wait for that, for another season together there. Logan, thank you so much, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, man. Take care.
All right. There he goes. Logan Gordon from Sportsnet 960. And yeah, I've been on a weekly fantasy guest with them for years now. Gosh, since 2019, 2020. Something like that. Been quite a while. Love Logan. Great analysis there looking at the Chargers. So the question is, Logan thinks Chargers are winning. I think the Browns can beat them. What do you guys think? What do you think? What's your way too early prediction? Week 8, Browns play the Ravens at home the week before. That'll be the third of a 3-game home set. So they'll be at home, feeling good, whatever. Bengals, Ravens, Chargers. I think Cleveland wins. What do you think? Hit us up on Twitter, on X, at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81. Make sure you click follow, notifications, and make sure also You're getting your NFL gear. This gear's phenomenal from our buddies at Homage. Make sure, there you go. You are getting these. I got a couple shirts. I've worn them on the show. I'll wear another one on next week's show. Ultra comfy, high quality looks, repping sports, pop culture, and more legendary moments. They got some cool Nick Chubb stuff. They got Otto Graham. I'm just talking Browns. They go across sports, just really, and the shirts, it's comfy. It's one thing for the shirt to look good, but to wear it and you're like, it's a comfortable shirt. That's Homage for you. So make sure you check them out. They're on social. Check the website. Easy to deal with. A lot of fun and some high quality material there. So Homage, our guys there. Get us on Instagram and TikTok at AndyMC Sports 2. Again, let us know. What do you think? Chargers, Browns, Week 8. And also, do you want Brandon Aiyuk? I don't. For the Browns. You want to trade for Brandon Aiyuk? You want Aiyuk? I don't want him. I'm not. I think it's too much. I think it's too much of a headache. And you're giving up dead cap money you have to add on for Cooper if you get rid of him too. I think it's too much of a headache. Go draft the stud in the first round. How about that? Now that we finally get a first-round pick back. So help me if they trade a first-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to come on here and make it booter off the internet with what I say. I do not. Andrew Berry, you keep those damn first-round picks. No more. I'm tired of doing second-round mocks. I want first-round. First onlys. Let's go. No Brandon Aiyuk for me. What do you think? Let me know, and we'll break it. What do we got next week? We got the Saints for next week. Yeah, we got Chargers and the Saints. We'll dip into that. So that'll be a lot of fun. And hey, who knows? Maybe there's trades, more fantasy football questions. Use hashtag Ask Andy. Thank you so much to our guest Logan Gordon, producer Shane, and to all of you. You've been watching the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. Go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.